Okay. We out here for another little chit chat. Here I am. I wanted to talk a little bit about some of my, say, pros and cons of living in Belgrade, and not the boilerplate. Oh, the city has too many cafes, or I don't know, something just very typical for a travel blogger to complain about, to gripe about, or something that's too generic. I want to talk about some pros and cons of Belgrade, and I guess overall Serbia, but some more specific at Belgrade that would convince you whether or not this place is good enough. The level that in and itself might not be enough to deter you, but compound it with many other things could be, or maybe make you want to move here. Starting with the pros, let's try to be positive in the beginning. Um, you know, I think when I first came out here, or before I came out here, everybody preached about how uh, Serbia, Belgrade, has the best nightlife in the Balkans. This like shining gem of just fervent, dancing and just nightlife culture overall, which obviously means a lot of techno because this is Europe as well. Um, I don't think so. I think Belgrade has about as much nightlife as most major European cities. When I say most major European cities, I mean like Paris, Berlin, Munich. I would say more akin to like a Munich. There's enough of a lot to like keep entertained. If you really want to get out there, you have to kind of find it. It's not going to find you, but it does have a nightlife good enough to keep me entertained. Which kind of goes into the second pro, which is I think Belgrade has enough subcultures to keep most people entertained, to find their circle, to find their niche. There was a woman on Reddit who talked about how her past, I think, 3 years or so, and Serbia has been not what she expected, subpar, and a lot of it she blamed towards like dating. And I think when it comes to dating, if you're not trying to date someone that has nothing that relates to you, you're probably gonna want to date someone who's more in line with your, say, subculture or niche, whatever you think you might fit in. So if you're a metalhead, date another metalhead. If you're a nerd, find some nerds. I think you can find those things in Belgrade. I think if you're big into metal, I walked into a random metal show. It wasn't really metal, it was like grindcore, but it was rock music. It was heavy rock, and everyone in that room fit the aesthetic. They fit the theme. I stood out because I dressed up like a little attorney, just because I was dressing casually. I just walked into this bar randomly, and I haven't seen the hip hop scene out here, but I know it exists. Obviously, the techno scene exists. Some of the bigger clubs in the Balkans are here. Like, you can find your circle. If you're open-minded, hippie, whatever, they exist out here. The circles, not all of them are very big, so you better be careful on whose toes you step on. One of these places where if you date two or three people, suddenly you actually start to get a well-known name in that environment. Like, oh, you dated so and so, and you're like, who is this person? How do they know me? Like, you have to be careful with that. I've already run into two people where I had met them, and then I got the Instagram, and then I met someone else, somewhere completely different, and then discovered that they knew each other somehow. And so, like, yeah, it kind of shows you that you gotta be careful who you, I guess you could say, piss off, because you're gonna gain a reputation very quickly here. Again, and the last one actually, I would say, I think Belgrade has a pretty open mind to different cultures. I say that just based off of my experience with how people ask me about my background, and how I've kind of witnessed Serbians, just not just general Serbian population, interacting with, say, like African populations and Cuban populations. Like, people are excited to try Cuban food, to dance to some Cuban music, to go to a Ugandan cafe and try different cuisine. Cuisine by far that is very African. They just present it as it is in Uganda, and people enjoyed it. I don't know if I have any videos of my time at this little cafe called Ugandan Connect, but if you come through Belgrade, you have to check it out. fantastic staff, fantastic food. You will not regret it. But yeah, people seem very open to trying new things, to trying things from different people, and I think that's actually quite nice because, you'd be surprised in places I've been to in the world where you would think that, and people aren't. A lot of places in Germany, for example, run into a lot of people who were, let's say, against the norms of other cultures, even when it just came to like music and cuisine. Personally, I can vibe to almost any kind of beat, and I can enjoy the cuisine of almost every country in the world. I can't think of one that I just would not eat anything from. But yeah, some people in other places in the world aren't so open to these things. But here, you're going to get a general curiosity. People are going to give it a shot. So let's go dig into the negatives, which I'm only going to mention three, just like I only mentioned three of the positives for myself. I really do think that the lack of public transportation is really exhausting here. Anytime I want to go anywhere that is, gonna cost me like a 30-minute walk, 20 to 30-minute walk to go almost anywhere. And that's fine. At the end of the day, I should get the exercise. But when you're in the rush, or if you just want to, be a little bit lazy, you can take a bus if you can find a bus, if you can figure out their schedule, because a lot of times Google Maps doesn't work for the bus system here. Um, but yeah, it's really exhausting. And I know there isn't actually going to be a solution for old Belgrade anytime soon. New Belgrade will probably have a higher chance of getting an actual functioning public transit system. But old Belgrade, I guess, is just there's layers and layers of history in the city that have to be dug up and investigated before they can build a tube or any sort of transit system. So in the meantime, you have to deal with taxis, and taxis can be scams sometimes. They can really rip you off, or you just, even if you get the right price, it adds up when you spend 5, 10, 10, 5. When you spend, let's say, a night's worth of taxis in Belgrade can easily cost you 20 to 30 euros, which if you're sharing with friends, it's not that bad, but that's kind of high. It adds up if you're going out frequently. Another thing, and this is actually something that I had to deal with last night that's still kind of fucking with me right now, is there's too much smoking here. I used to live in Istanbul. I've lived in Germany. I've lived in Belgium. I lived in countries where people smoke, but there's too much smoking in Belgrade. People smoke everywhere. People smoke indoors, and I think that is what really bothers me. I tried to not let it bother me so much, but it definitely bothers me. Not emotionally. I mean, I don't really care what people do at the end of the day, but physically, it's one of those things. If you did, I don't know, a line of pick your powder in front of me, I wouldn't care because I'm not breathing it in. It's not affecting me physically. It might change the tone of the conversation, but I'm not being affected by that. But smoking affects everybody around you. Every time I go out, my clothing smells like smoke. Right? What's the point of me wearing cologne? Because when I come home, I want to smell like cigarettes. That's it. And indoors, and like a lot of these restaurants are very small. I was at this amazing restaurant called Dimitri's Steakhouse, I guess, and I spent like 70 euros for my meal. So it was not a cheap dining experience. But I actually was looking forward to leave because there was so much cigarette smoke in that room. I couldn't breathe. My throat was getting very dry. I started to get a headache. I was not happy. And I had to finish my steak and leave. I actually left with a lot of the food on the table because I just couldn't handle it. I felt sick just being in that room. And I think this is going to be a problem that my body will just have to adapt to, which I don't want it to, because it's essentially like I don't like to smoke and I don't have the option to avoid it. So I'm basically being forced to smoke everywhere I go. Like if everyone is smoking weed, I'd be a lot more comfortable with that. But we're talking cigarettes here, full of the carcinogens and, just bad for you. Americans, we've been kind of indoctrinated and taught that cigarette smoke is impolite. So you just keep it away from others. You can do it yourself in specific places, but don't force others to be around you. If you blew cigarette smoke at someone in America, that would be akin to just asking to fight them, right? But not here. Not here. People just smoke. I don't even really think they even think about where that smoke is going. Um, but yeah, it's one of the biggest pet peeves I have out here, and there's not going to be a solution to that either. I think at one point it was briefly banned, but it was unbanned pretty quickly. last but not least, I think this one, me and my dog probably uh, are a bit sad about, and that is there isn't that much immediate nature in the old Belgrade region. I don't know about New Belgrade, I don't know about across the river, but in the part where most people live, there aren't that many huge parks where you can just kind of go get lost in. There aren't that many places that are like trails, inner city. There aren't that many places that are super bike friendly or super, say, skating or just sporty, outdoorsy, sporty friendly places. So I find that it feels a bit stuffed in that sense. Like living in Bavaria, where it seems like in the middle of the city there's 5 or 10 trails that go somewhere very far, and you just walk far enough and you will find nature. Like in Bavaria, you get a lot of that. In Berlin, you even have a lot of these spaces where you can kind of just be sporty without really interfering with others. But here, there isn't that much. And if you're someone who really doesn't want to give up, like being able to walk out their apartment and just taking a no more than say 20-minute walk to a large green space, then Old Belgrade is not for you. If you're living close to the river, at least you have the river. I don't think people swim in the river, but they definitely like row boats, go fishing. So that's something, but I don't really feel like that's enough. I don't know if just, especially since you have to live close to the river, which riverside real estate is very expensive. So it's not something that everyone have access to so easily. So yeah, it can be quite challenging, but I wouldn't say anything I just discussed in this video makes this city a deal breaker or of the positive three things that are so significant that it would motivate someone to live here. They're just factors to consider. You know, do you want to have a modest nightlife, where you can go out till 12 or 2 and have some nice little bar fun, and maybe have 1 or 2 clubs you frequent all the time? Or do you want to be able to, like, I don't know, go to do the Berlin level things where you go to like 5 or 10 clubs and they all have something crazy going on that night on a Wednesday or Thursday? This city is not for you for that, but it's gonna have enough. If you're someone who is afraid that they wouldn't be able to find friends here, don't worry, you'll be fine. Especially in regards to dating as well, so much less, but friends, you can easily find friend circles here, which usually leads to dating anyway. And if you're someone that likes to experience different cultures, you're going to see that here. You're going to see that cultural exchange here. And the negatives, the negatives, they're there, but I don't think they're deal breakers. Like I said, come here, give it a shot. Let me know if you all think some of the things I spoke about are true or not. Um they're just my opinions. They aren't canon to the life in Belgrade. Maybe you'll have a different experience. But yeah, peace.